Good day everyone, I am Rialen Irendora of BSED SS24 and I'm going to discuss about the Thurstone scale and the Likert type of scale wherein I have to split this topic into two. So I have to discuss first the Thurstone scale and followed by the Likert scale. So when we say Thurstone scale, it is defined as a unidimensional scale that is used to track respondents' behavior, attitude, or feeling towards a subject. This scale consists of statements about a particular issue or a topic, for instance, wherein each statement has a numerical value that indicates the respondent's attitude towards the topic as favorable or unfavorable. The topic as being agreed or disagree. So respondents indicate the statements that they agree with and its average is being computed. The mean score of the agreement or the disagreement is calculated as the attitude of the respondents towards the topic. So I have here the example wherein this example is all about the Thurstone scale. So as you can see, the first statement, I would like to be treated as an individual by my bank. So if you strongly agree with this statement, you have to check the box. So in making a Thurstone scale, there are statements that are being presented followed by the attitudes towards the statement. So these attitudes are being classified or being written as strongly agree, agree, disagree, and so on and so forth. So this scale or Thurstone scale was developed by Robert Thurstone to approximate measurement in equal appearing interval levels. You're wondering how to conduct a Thurstone scale with an example. An example of Thurstone scale survey is to understand the attitude of employees in an organization towards diversity hiring in that organization. There are two distinct milestones in the Thurstone scale questions. The first one is to derive the final question, and the second one is to administer the Thurstone scale question and conduct its analysis. So, in deriving the final questions, there are five distinctive steps to derive the final questions. The first one is to develop statements. Here you have to develop a large number of agree or disagree statements on a certain topic, for instance. So, for example, if you wanted to find out people's attitudes towards the policy of diversity hiring in an organization, your statements may include. So as you can see, I have here the example. So the example of the Thurstone scale wherein you have to conduct the survey is the people's attitude towards the policy of the diversity hiring organization. In developing statements, you can develop or you can put as many as you can, and these statements are being answerable by agree or disagree. Then the next step is to rank each statement with a panel of judges. This next step would be to have a panel of judges rate each item on a scale of 1 to 11, where 1 is the least favorable attitude towards the common factor diversity hiring, and 11 is an extremely favorable attitude. It is important to note that the judges are required to rate each option and not agree or disagree with them. So for instance, I have here the five statements wherein, for example, I will rate the first statement, the policy on diversity hiring is wrong. I will rate this is 1 because I believe this statement is least favorable. And I'll rate 11 to the fifth statement wherein it says that diversity hiring aids increasing the reputation of brand, and so on and so forth. Then the third step is to calculate median and or mean of the interquartile range. So here the data collected from all the judges is then to be analyzed to draw up a table with the mean or the median values in descending order. Using median or mean is a personal choice, and the options throw up to accurate results in the use of either. If you have 50 statements, then you need to have 50 means and mid the IQRs or the interquartile range. So in this step, the data collected from the ratings of the panel judges, wherein they have to rate 1 to the least favorable attitude or the least favorable statement, and 11 to the most favorable statement. So they have to to analyze or to draw up a table written there the ratings of the statements they have rated. And the next step is to sorting the table. The data has to be sorted on the basis of smallest to largest median, mean, and the interquartile range for each median or mean to have in descending order. So as you can see, I have here the table wherein the 43rd statement, no, for instance, you have input the 50 statements in the developing of statements in the first step. So for the third statement, you have ranked it as the first one or the 11th as the most favorable statement. So its median or mean is 1 and the interquartile range is 1.25. Then followed by the 21st statement, and its median or mean is 1 as well, and the interquartile range is 1 also, and so on and so forth. Then the last step is the selecting final variables or options. Selecting options on the basis of the above table or the table that I have presented earlier. For example, you could select one item from each mean or median value. You want the statements with the most agreement between judges. So for each median value, this is the item with the lowest interquartile range. This is a rule of the thumb. You don't have to choose this item. If you decide it's poorly worded or ambiguous, then choose the item above it with the lowest interquartile range. After the deriving of final questions, let us proceed to the administering and analysis of the Thurstone scale question. The first one is to administer the analysis by median or mean. The question and the subsequent options can be administered to the respondents by using either the mean or the median score in the below format. So for example, the weights of the statements are summed and divided by the number of the statements checked. So if the respondents were to agree with the statements number 2, 5, 7, and number 10, then the attitude score is 10.5 plus 2.5 plus 4.5 and 6.0 equals to 23.5 divided by 4, the total of 5.8. So dividing the number of statements puts this score at a little above the midway point of the 1 to 11 scale. So this score indicates that the attitude is slightly favorable to the diversity hiring in the organization. So for example, this num this table, the first statement is policy on diversity hiring is wrong. So you have to check whether you have to agree or disagree. Then next is administering and analysis by simple count or percentage. So in the same example above, regarding regarding the hiring of the hiring in an organization, so question is administered without the mean or the median score. The calculation can be depicted by a simple count of agreement on the 1 to 11 scale or percentage. So if the respondents were to agree with the statements, for instance, number 1, number 4, number 1, number 4, number 5, number 6, number 8, number 9, and number 11, then the agreement count is 7 out of 11, which puts the percentage of at 63.63%, which means that the attitude is favorable towards diversity hiring. So that was Thurstone type of scale. Then let's move on to the Likert type of scale. So the Likert scale question is a psychometric scale where questions based on the scale are used in a survey. It is one of the most widely used question types in a survey. In a Likert scale survey, respondents don't choose between yes or no. There are specific choices based on agreeing or disagreeing on a particular survey questions. For instance, the product the product packaging in a certain company. Are you satisfied? Are you very satisfied, very unsatisfied, unsatisfied? Then you have to choose your your agreement towards the product packaging. Then the next one is the product design. If you're satisfied, then unsatisfied, and so on and so forth. So in Likert type of scale, there are two types. The first one is the unipolar Likert scale. So unipolar scales are more contoured, allowing users to instead focus on a single item's absence or presence. The scale measures the original data, but most of the time, unipolar scales generate more accurate answers. An example of unipolar satisfaction scale are not at all, not at all satisfied, slightly satisfied, moderately satisfied, very satisfied, and completely satisfied. So, a unipolar Likert scale question indicates a respondent to think of the presence or the absence of the quality. So, the arrangement of the answer options is in a 5-point scale. So the unipolar question types lend themselves where there is a maximum amount of the attitude or none. For instance, let's say, how helpful was the apple pie recipe? Very helpful, somewhat or not at all. We can safely assume there is something in between, like sort of helpful. Then the next type is the bipolar Likert scale. So a bipolar scale indicates or respondents to balance two different qualities, defining the relative proportion of those qualities. Where a unipolar scale has one pole, a bipolar scale has two opposites. For example, a common bipolar scale includes the following choices: completely dissatisfied, mostly dissatisfied, somewhat dissatisfied, neither satisfied or dissatisfied, somewhat satisfied, mostly satisfied, and completely satisfied. So this is the example of the bipolar Likert scale. So the the unipolar bipolar is only the opposite of the Likert, no, the unipolar scale. So that was Thurstone and Likert type of scale. And that ends my part. Once again, I am Rialan Arendora of BZ SS24. Thank you.